Welcome back for another video on this little corner of the internet. I wanted to film a little reading vlog and take you along with me for the next couple days, tell you what I'm reading, what some of my thoughts are about it, and show little snippets here and there of things that I'm getting up to. So today is Saturday and I gloriously have the entire house to myself, which is so nice. Which is why I'm taking advantage of getting to film in a different space than you usually see me in. But I brought down a few of my things to sort of camp out here for a little bit and do some reading, do some writing. As far as what's on the agenda today, let me check my to-do list. I definitely wanted to start a rough draft of my next Substack essay that I'll be putting out on the 25th. And I also had a few other ideas for future essays that I just want to write down the gist of so I don't forget them. I'll definitely be doing some journaling as well as reading the current book that I'm fixated on, which is No One Is Talking About This by Patricia Lockwood. I started this last night. And then around 2 today, I need to pack my bags and head over to my boyfriend's. We are going to hang out for a little bit, and then we are going to our friend's 30th birthday party. So, by the way, the image in the background is from a YouTube video that I was watching on the television. I think it was a music playlist of songs that make you feel like you are in a Hopper painting, which if you're interested, I will link in the description of this video. I've really been enjoying having it on in the background just as ambience music, and also the added benefit of getting to see several of Hopper's paintings, which I'd forgotten how much I loved. But as far as initial thoughts on this book, I think I am about 28 pages in so far, and I've kind of been taking a little bit slowly. I've sort of steamrolled through 2 other books in the last couple of days, so I wanted to slow down a little bit and make sure that I was actually fully focused on and paying attention to this one. I recently listened to 2 audiobooks from the library. I'd fallen into a little mini reading slump and I kind of wanted to ease myself back in and essentially just have someone tell me a story. So I listened to 2 audiobooks in the last couple of days. One was Six Gun Tarot, which was sort of a speculative fiction fantasy. And the other one that I listened to all of yesterday was Just Kids by Patti Smith, which is, I think, a pretty well-known memoir of hers, and just absolutely adored that. That's a book that after my no-buy year, I definitely plan on picking up a physical copy, rereading, annotating. I recently started following Patti Smith's Substack, which is where I sort of initially was introduced to her. And I've started listening to some of her music as well, which I have all really enjoyed, and I've just sort of been really inspired by her, really inspired by the way that she approaches art and creativity and making things. I just think she's really freaking cool. I'll let you know now that I ended up giving her memoir, Just Kids, 5 stars. I was really blown away by it, and you know when you have that sort of like post 5-star book like hangover or like haze, and you're like, how am I gonna read another book after this? Like, it's not gonna measure up. Well, so far I've been really, really enjoying this book. I think I've seen this tagged as an experimental novel or a novel that defies categorization. Let me just read you the inside flap just to give you a little bit of context about what this book is about. As this urgent genre-defying book opens, a woman known for her viral social media posts travels the world speaking to her adoring fans. She's overwhelmed by navigating the new language and etiquette of what she terms, quote, the portal, where she grapples with an unshakable conviction that a vast chorus of voices is now dictating her thoughts. When existential threads from climate change to the rise of an unnamed dictator and an epidemic of loneliness begins to loom, she posts her way deeper into the portal's void. Are we in hell? The people of the portal ask themselves. Are we all just going to keep doing this till we die? Suddenly, 2 texts from her mother pierce the fray. Something has gone wrong, and how soon can you get here? As real life and its stakes collide with the increasingly absurd antics of the portal, the woman confronts a world that seems to contain both an abundance of proof that there is goodness, empathy, and justice in the universe, and a deluge of evidence to the contrary. Fragmentary and omniscient, No One Is Talking About This is at once a love letter to the endless scroll and a profound modern meditation on love, language, and human connection from a singular voice in American literature. which I feel like is a pretty darn accurate summation of my experience of reading this so far. Again, I'm only 28 pages in to this 200 or so page book, but I think I would almost argue that so far this is not feeling like a novel to me. This is feeling a bit more like fragmentary prose poems that are all loosely connected. They do have a narrative of sorts running through them. Like, again, we do have sort of our main character, her husband has been mentioned, and some of the other people that she has interacted with due to her sort of online career. But to show you what I'm saying, I will sort of open the page here, but you can sort of see like there are segments that are sort of divided by these little 3 dots, and they're not necessarily explicitly linear, but they are connected in ways. So to me so far this is just feeling more like fragmentary prose poems that are forming a loose narrative around this main character, which so far I'm quite enjoying. I think is really interesting narratively, as well as the format itself being interesting. But I think one of the things that's really doing it for me with this book is Patricia Lockwood seems to have really been able to sort of tap into the essence or mindset of internet culture, and in some ways social media culture. As someone who grew up chronically online, I think I've sort of been waiting for books like this to be published as that generation has sort of come into adulthood and is starting to explore their experiences with different kinds of media books. And I think so far this book has done a really good job of sort of putting into words the abstract sort of absurdism of some internet cultures. Mainly I'm thinking of Twitter and Tumblr, and even the sort of new sense of internet comedy or sense of comedy that's come about via memes and one-liners and things that are increasingly more and more absurd. Like, for example, if you were on Tumblr in the 2010s, I will make reference to none pizza left beef, which to this day just makes me giggle relentlessly. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I will leave a link in the description. I'll read you 2 of these segments that are next to each other. "What are you doing?" her husband asked softly, tentatively, repeating his question until she shifted her blank gaze up to him. What was she doing? Couldn't he see her arms are full of the sapphires of the instant? Didn't he realize that a male feminist had posted a picture of his nipple that day? She had become famous for a post that simply said, "Can a dog be twins?" That was it. Can a dog be twins? It had recently reached a stage of penetration where teens posted the crying face emoji at her. They were in high school. They were going to remember "Can a dog be twins?" instead of the date of the Treaty of Versailles, which, let's face it, she didn't know either. But I'm really excited to see where this book goes. I think I'm gonna read for a little bit and then regroup for some creative writing, and I'll check back in with you a little bit later today. Hello again. I just wanted to give you a little update before I head out for the evening. I read maybe 2 more pages of No One Is Talking About This, and actually spent most of my afternoon making soup, which unfortunately didn't turn out very good. It looked very nice, didn't taste very good. But this is the makeup look for tonight. This is the outfit. I don't know if I can show you my shoes. These are the shoes. But yeah, I think that is it for the moment. I will catch you all later. folks, it's been a few days. It is now Tuesday, and I figured it's probably a good idea to wrap up this vlog so I can get it out to you on Wednesday. I had a great time seeing friends and celebrating my friend Sarah's 30th birthday this past weekend. It was a lot of fun. The past couple days I've just been doing some reading, which you'll have seen in the vlog bits. I'll briefly mention 2 graphic novels that I read in the past couple days, one being Abbott 1973, which is a follow-up to the first Abbott volume. Unfortunately, the second volume was a bit of a letdown for me, and I'll get into that a little bit more in my monthly wrap-up. And then the second graphic novel that I read was one called Blouse. I'm blanking on the author's name. And no exaggeration, I think that might have been the worst graphic novel that I've ever read in my life. I would like the brain cells that I lost reading it back, as well as some bleach to scrub out my brain after reading it. It was bad. It was really bad. Would not recommend. But I just wanted to give you a little update on no one is talking about this. Apologies for the glare from the window here. I finished reading that book last night and was utterly gutted and shattered by it. I'm really grateful to have read a good number of 5-star books recently, even in the past couple of weeks. And so now I'm kind of like, well, how am I going to find books that are just as good as that or that top that? I don't think I can. I think in a lot of ways I am still processing that book, and I will definitely give you some more cohesive, coherent thoughts in my monthly wrap-up here that'll be coming out next week. But I did jot down a few notes last night just so that I could talk to you at least a little bit about it, because I think when I last spoke to you I was only 28 pages in, and then now I've finished the book. I was really enjoying it when I started, but as the book started to evolve and develop, I was pulled even farther in, and by the end was just utterly, I think I'll use the term again, shattered, cracked open, made new by this book, which is always a great time when you come across those kinds of books that just, you feel like a different person after having read them. The book itself is definitely written in a very fragmentary style that remains true for the entire book. I think so far this is the best and most accurate use and depiction of internet humor in a book and internet culture. And one of the things that I loved about this book, and I think really sets it apart, is the nuance in the exploration of the internet or the portal in this book. It's not inherently vilified, it's not inherently romanticized either. It just is what it is, which is sometimes a kind of unreality. One of the thoughts that this book had me thinking about last night I jotted down here and I'll read to you, and that is that this book was making me think about the internet and the way it was being depicted in the book as a fire hose of information that is constantly shaping reality and consists of both millions of people's realities, the unrealities they weave around them and about them, and also just some straight up fake reality stuff, aka something like QAnon. We start off with a main character who is never named. Actually, all of the characters in this book are not named, which I thought was really interesting. They're mainly referred to as husband, sister, father, mother. But we start with a main character who is so tuned in and linked into the portal or social media in this book. It is her job, it is her world, it is constantly shaping her reality and how she thinks about things. And then about halfway through the book she has an event that happens in her real life that pulls her out of that sort of, I don't want to say fabricated reality, but I guess in some ways fabricated reality of the internet. And that is the baby that her sister is pregnant with is developing some complications in utero, and they aren't sure what the baby's future is, if the baby can survive outside of the uterus. And so she essentially puts her entire world on hold and goes and helps her sister through this whole journey process that she goes through. When the baby is born, it's diagnosed with something called Proteus syndrome, and it is essentially a 1 in a billion chance of having developed this sort of slipped chromosome. And again, doctors aren't entirely sure how long the baby will live after being born, if at all. And so our protagonist's world entirely shifts from being one that is linked to the portal to one that is entirely tied to reality and sort of this bubble or this world that is created around her niece and the amount of attention and care that she needs in order to survive for as long as she does. Content warning for infant mortality in this book. Her niece ends up passing away after 6 months of life, And the second half of this book is definitely our main character going through this entire process, this entire journey through the lens of her relationship with her sister, her family, and this niece that is born. I just think that Patricia Lockwood did such a phenomenal job writing this book. In the end, our main character is definitely pulled away from the full immersion that she was in with the portal in the beginning of the book. She has devoted a large chunk of her life to helping her niece experience as many firsts as possible, get as much life in while she can, but at the same time still not shying away from or looking down on her past life, just sort of commenting on the differences, which I really appreciated. She doesn't really have an air of, you know, I went outside and I touched grass and I'm now enlightened again. But you even see through her own grieving process and the grieving process of her sister and her husband, just how much the internet, or aka the portal in this book, has shaped how they think about things and how they grieve. And it's not a commentary on whether that is good or bad, it just is. Again, I thought this book was phenomenal. I am still processing. It definitely made me cry last night. Few books will actually make me cry, but I was doing this. This was easily a 5 out of 5 star book for me. I think it is definitely going to be a favorite of the year, if not my favorite. We shall see. But let me know if you have read this book or any of the other ones that I mentioned in this vlog. If you liked this video, you can give it a thumbs up. It definitely helps my channel grow and I really appreciate it. And I hope you all are doing well, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.